John Bruce.
Trial Tuesday, once again, today's topic, something we can all relate to, buying the right car insurance. Attorney David Ayler, a guy who's always in good hands and can save you 50% or more, here to sort through the ins and outs of insurance policies and how they can affect you in case of a wreck. Counselor, thanks so much for being here. We do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We see these commercials all the time. There's so many different options out there, but you really have to do your homework because it can really come back to bite you if you do get in a wreck.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really understand all the different coverages. Understandably so. They look at it for one angle, the money side.
How much money is it?
Exactly. How much do I have to spend? What are the minimums that I can have to be legally on the roads? Which is understandable to some degree when looking at your budget. Unfortunately, what can happen is if you get in a car wreck and you have that limited coverage, particularly if you hit someone else perhaps and it's their fault, you're involved in something, and then their coverage doesn't cover you, unfortunately your coverage then may not be able to help you.
Let's talk about this from a standpoint of what happens when you get in an accident and it's just, you know, you notify a police officer and then you exchange information versus something more criminal. What is that line?
Well, you know, first thing you're going to have in the accident is the investigation, and the accident report's going to have whether or not you're found contributing to the collision. Sometimes you may not even be written an actual citation like a following too closely or too fast for conditions or something like that, but you could still be listed as a contributing factor, which is exactly where the fault comes from. But if you're in an accident and you're found not at fault, then at that point, of course, it's going to be the other driver's insurance that's going to cover you and potentially cover your medical bills. The problem is that insurance may not be enough to cover you.
Exactly. I think we've also all been in situations before where we're relying on a check to come in from somebody else's insurance that, you know, was at fault for that, and then it never comes. Is there legal action you can take if that sort of situation happens?
You do have that happen, because even if perhaps, you know, it may be on the accident report that you're not at fault, the insurance company from the other side can fight that. You know, they can say that they don't feel like they're liable, which then turns into a civil claim. Sometimes also you have a situation where you may feel like the officer actually wrote the report wrong, didn't get all the witness statements, they found you at fault, and it's really not your fault, it should have been the other person's, and so now the liability is on you. So when you get into sort of that back and forth, that's going to be the litigation side where an attorney is going to assist you against the insurance company so that you can make sure you get covered.
Well, talk to me about what you need to do, step one, if you do get into a wreck and you think that perhaps the report was wrong or you think the other guy was at fault. If you're having trouble, what documentation do you need to have?
Well, what you want to do is you want to get with an attorney as quick as possible, simply for the reason that they're going to bring in an accident reconstructionist to look at everything, determine if perhaps the speed was wrong, you know, if there's other statements that need to be taken, or sometimes just the mathematical equations they use in the accident report are incorrect because they're limited on some of the information. These officers may be busy moving on to another scene, or some just aren't trained enough to actually know how to do the report.
So when picking insurance, especially auto insurance, is there a particular plan that will actually help you pay for legal costs associated with that wreck as well?
Well, you know, it just depends on your insurance company will actually, if you're getting sued in that sort of situation, they'll have an attorney that comes in to help represent you. But ultimately, if you're trying to go against the other person in some sort of lawsuit, the attorney is probably going to come in on a contingency basis. But the problem that you often run into is even if you are not found at fault and you go against the other person's insurance, you may hit their policy limits. It's, let's say, $25,000, $50,000,
right,
but you may have $100,000 in medical bills. So the only way that you're going to be able to get that covered is two different processes. One, you can sue that person, but if they're judgment proof, you can't get anything out of nothing.
Right.
So the other way is to have underinsured policy, where essentially your insurance is a separate policy called underinsured, which you don't legally have to have, but that insurance will kick in and actually cover your own bills, but it won't bring up your insurance policy. It's made for that shortcoming.
Certainly an interesting topic of conversation, and hopefully you can talk with your agent or your attorney and figure it out to stay safe on the roads out there. Attorney David Ayler, thanks for your time, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Do appreciate it as always. Much more Lowcountry Live coming your way next.
Trial Tuesday, brought to you by attorney David Ayler.